It's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
And here we are in the great isness of the now.
That's a pretty vast place to be.
It's almost as vast as the nowness of the isness.
I take your word for it. Wow. Got my head spinning again.
Well, happy tax day, everyone.
Yay. Oh, speaking of head spinning, huh? Woo.
We got on the show today so far, Sunny Bunny, a.k.a. Mrs. Future.
Greetings, Earthlings.
Yes. And Bobby Wilder in San Francisco. Hey, Bobby, welcome to the show.
Wow, yeah, happy tax day.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, exciting, huh?
Is it the coldest winter you've ever seen? Spring in San Francisco.
It was funny. I had to wear like a t-shirt a couple days ago, and then yesterday and today, it's like, yeah, I got to wear a jacket walking around.
So you notice
the day.
I'm wearing one too, and we're in sunny Boulder Creek, which isn't so sunny today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
April showers, you got to say. It's nice that we've got potentially wet weather in store.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I got to plant those seeds, California poppy seeds.
That's right.
Is this the time to do it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as the temperature is warm enough, right? As soon as the
Yeah.
frost is over, which pretty much now, I'd say.
Okay, well then, let's do it. Forget the show and go out and plant some seeds.
Well, maybe we can multitask.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll do
Let's
that.
plant some consciousness seeds. How's that?
Yeah. For example, since it is tax day, I thought it would be worthwhile looking at this story in Wired on how Palantir is helping Doge with a massive IRS data project.
Oh, good job, Palantir, our very favorite AI data central surveillance organization.
Yes.
Well, it's a software company co-founded by Peter Thiel.
At least it's our surveillance company instead of China's.
Yeah, they have more permission to surveil us.
Well, as long as we're not secretly China. I think the last 5 years have made that a little questionable.
Well, their effort is to build a new mega API for accessing Internal Revenue Service records.
API.
Yeah, an API.
Which is kind of like a front end, right? It's a user interface. Application.
Program interface, yes. They should have the best ways to get into systems and see exactly how they work, because that's what they do for countries opposing us. They would probably have theoretically the best hackers in the world.
Well, they're calling it a mega API for accessing IRS service records.
Yeah, plus they had a hackathon this last week. An
Right.
event that
Turn the hackers loose to see what they can come up with.
the Doge and a handful of Palantir reps, along with dozens of career IRS engineers, were collaborating to build that single API layer above all IRS databases.
To rule them all. Right. Doge is supposedly saying that the big issue, why so much fraud was so pervasive for so long, is because the computer systems haven't been talking to each other among the various agencies.
That's right. They're old. They're out of date.
Well, it wasn't
compartmentalized.
computerized when these systems started.
Yeah, we've had taxes since 1913.
That's right. And we've only had
Right.
computers since the 90s.
60s.
Nah.
Well, mainframes. I'm sure IRS used mainframes back in the 60s. It's COBOL. They all probably started in COBOL.
They definitely had punch cards, like in the 50s, I'm sure,
Yeah.
for tax data.
Yeah, but it's a whole bunch of checkerboard silos of information that has not been integrated before.
Yeah, I'm sure they have COBOL running in some of these systems, that they had to patch in Y2K.
Wasn't there some news clip about having to visit the cave where the Social Security file boxes are stored?
Yeah, that reminds me. Remember in the Cold War, was it in Asheville? Anyway, they had a cave for all the people in the government, well, elected officials, I mean, would actually go to this tunnel, and it was supposed to be bomb-proof. So I don't know how deep in the ground it was, but it was near that mansion in Asheville, North Carolina, I think. I think that's where it was. But anyway, they discovered it, I think, 10, 15 years ago, and then became public information, and they had to close it up.
Now that everybody knows this is where the powerful people are going to escape once the world crashes.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a place like that in Boulder Creek.
I've heard about that.
Future
yeah.
Peak.
No,
Yeah,
actually,
right where we live, right?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Hollow Water Mountain here. No, there was actually a place near a railroad not too far from us.
Oh, that place Mark showed us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we have a friend who knows strange Santa Cruz really well.
Yeah.
And there was apparently an underground building. And also MZ had said he saw a place for sale that was like an underground storage facility for documents.
Yeah.
you
In
can-
the era of bunkers and silos
Yeah.
and bomb shelters.
right.
There were a lot of these underground cave dwellings for fear-mongering people
Yeah.
who wanted to
So-
pretend they were safe.
I had dinner with a girlfriend of mine from Mills. Her father was a high programmer and doing mainframes back then. And he invited somebody from Wrigley's Chewing Gum, and he was like the number 3 person. He was the computer guy for Wrigley's Chewing Gum, right?
Yeah, they had their big factory here.
Yeah, in
And-
Davenport.
And,
No, closer in.
he had mentioned that they had silos. Well, they had a place where there's a salt mine, I think in the middle of the United States. I don't know where, this huge salt mine. And they had companies, and Wrigley's had a little storefront or opening, a vault opening. And next door to them was Coca-Cola and everybody that you could imagine. And the idea was, this is during the Cold War in the 80s, was if they started launching atomic missiles over to the United States, that the executives of these companies would find their way into these silos. And then in those silos, each company had their secret formula how to create from scratch. For Wrigley's, how to create a gum factory from scratch and start it up again.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he told me that if they were on the West Coast, they had to get to Boulder Creek. From San Jose. They were supposed to fly into San Jose and drive over to Boulder Creek. God knows what, but that's what he told me.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, Boulder Creek is a kind of a center for a lot of strange activity, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a number we still don't know much about.
Sure. Ripe for mystery.
Since Bruce and I started that computer history museum here in Boulder Creek, it attracted a lot of strange people, including some scientists that used to work up at Lockheed, the secret Lockheed base on the mountains above us, up off of Empire Grade Road. And they were telling us that that's where I think they first developed the Patriot missile here just above, Bonnie Doon and Boulder Creek area. That they were also, in the early days, they had a number of test stands for testing out rocket fuel mixtures, like combining hydrazine with God knows what to create thrust vectors. And they had test stands. I think if you look on Google Maps, you can still see it from the air. It's pretty interesting.
It seems like that Lockheed base is for some pretty weird research.
Yeah. So getting back to the big project in Washington, should this go forward, Doge wants Palantir's Foundry software to become the read center of all IRS systems, meaning anyone with access could view and have the ability to possibly alter IRS data. That's the fearful part because it's all in one
Now,
place.
this is why this
all in
article
one
I
place.
thought was a little bit of a smear article, because the first paragraph talks about how this is the read center, and then they kind of introduce the idea that from
could
this read center
possibly
you could
alter.
possibly alter data. So
Yeah.
it's all like somebody's making it up.
And it's
you know?
not clear who has access.
Yeah.
Also, of course not. They're just designing the system.
Well, and the whole point was that you've got all these hackers that are free-forming how to approach the issues that are facing Doge and that are facing the IRS and the Treasury. And that the very fact that you've got these knowledgeable people looking at your private tax records is the problem.
That's what's concerning.
Yeah, and they always talk about how like privacy is the problem instead of fraud is the problem. So anytime that they're not actually at least being even-handed and fair and balanced, I'm feeling like it's a hit piece.
Well, it's more like it's projecting into the future potential fear for potential issues that could go wrong.
Well, I'm
Right,
very
that's
afraid
what,
that our AIs are going to close us out of the loop.
You are?
Well, yeah, like the Black Mirror episode that somehow all currency is controlled by the computers and they monetize everything, and then you can't breathe because they haven't given you an allotment of tokens for your air
I
quota.
know, but those are fear-based stories. Those are
I know, but that's like
come on, that's
to
it's
wet your
science
whistle.
fic-
That's to
And
make
what's
you
the name
alert
of the show,
to the
even?
danger.
Black Mirror. Yeah, it's going to have shows like that. It's
Well-
cautionary tales.
So at the hackathon, I hope that they put in sufficient protections that things like that don't happen, and that they make sure that people own their own information and
Yeah.
they get to determine who has access to it and who doesn't.
Yeah, now those are important issues. They should have
Right.
a rousing conversation on it.
What they don't tell you is the IRS has already been hacked, especially the Social Security Administration. So every person, Social Security member is in the dark web already. And it
Great.
and it wasn't Palantir. It was foreign countries that took all their hackers and just went right into the Social Security. They could go right into the IRS. They can go in very easily. So
Yeah.
and they take that information and they target specific people with that.
Yeah, I've heard scams along the lines of taking your income tax refund and just having it sent to someone else. through this.
Yes, and that has been going on for many years, and recently even more so. Like we're talking $150 billion that they've discovered so far. They're trying to discover. They have another 2 years to figure out. Maybe they can get to 2 trillion. At least they got $150 billion back.
Yeah.
That's something.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
But
Johnny
I mean,
Harris has been doing some really interesting research onto data and data breaches. And
Who has?
Johnny Harris, the indie journalist who does all those deep dive research projects. Yeah, he had one on the weaponization of data. Just recently we were watching, and how I guess it was in the 2010 to 2020 era that computer systems started being hacked so that entire electrical grids were vulnerable and things like that. So, you know, just really looking at the roots of this idea that the war that we have to win is this data war, and that anything else that we think we're focused on is just a distraction from where the real influence is being applied.
Johnny Harris is a really interesting indie journalist. He lives in Washington, D.C. He's done a recent report on the way corporations profit from poverty. Fascinating story about how government money actually goes to private corporations that then deal with poverty issues, that the government doesn't deal directly with poverty. It deals through private corporations.
Right, and he also points out how inefficient it has been since the Reagan era.
Yeah.
It used to be before the Reagan era that government assistance programs went directly to people, from government to individuals. And since then, the government has abdicated its direct responsibility and hired all kinds of private consulting agencies basically to deliver the government services.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing. And it really shows you that in a way that government and industry and corporations have been a revolving door for a very, very long time. And that's true with every aspect of society, you know, from big pharma to
It's almost
high
50
tech.
years, right?
Yeah.
50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that this whole thing we're putting more of a light on it. I'm not so. I feel like Doge is actually helping to do some good.
Yeah.
with
I don't know
this.
how people can deliver news and not talk about the idea that we have some level of transparency, even if it is very administration positive transparency.
They might make a few mistakes every so often.
Like Jon Stewart really made a point yesterday of talking about how the cabinet meeting came off like people were stroking our Fuhrer or something like that.
And it was more like an episode of The Apprentice, with Trump sitting in the middle and all those people around.
I took it
was
more like that.
And what do you think, John? And this, and what are you up to? And, you know, going around the circle and asking everyone what they were doing.
It's a classic example of turning something that doesn't have to be negative into something that is negative. So
Well, that's
the
because
idea
there's
that speaking positively to your leader
Yeah.
about the success of your efforts to do what he hired you to do is somehow indicative that we now are a fascist dictatorship. it's
Yeah.
sort of going too far in that direction. You know, how are you supposed to accomplish anything if you can't acknowledge that you're being successful at doing what you were asked to do?
Well, it's because a lot of people think that's what's going on, that there's a fascism forming. And we're in the 30s in Germany, and we're seeing
we
this,
hear all kinds of people. They need to leave the
parallels
country
to-
because here's fascism.
Yeah.
It's going to take over America, and then we're all going to lose our freedom. Finally, like we haven't lost it already.
when is Kristallnacht going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, I
Didn't
mean,
it
it's
happen
very-
during the COVID lockdown?
Well,
Wasn't that the original?
It's much more complicated today.
Yeah, where there's a lot more people with their eyes on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there isn't. You know, there are certainly fascistic elements in the mix, but there's a lot of other stuff going on too,
Yeah.
including the rise of corporate power since World War II.
Yeah, I am experiencing again that kind of media coverage that makes my head spin, where I listen to people on all sides of every issue and I get what feel like completely biased reports that make me first love and then hate the people that are the subjects of the reports. And I'm developing a rule for myself that unless I hear an article say something positive and then it's the old sandwich a criticism with a compliment, I'm just going to assume it's propaganda. I'm not going to accept anymore absolutely one-sided, hit piece biased news.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Journalism as news. I'm
No.
just done.
Okay, well, let's go to more fun facts on all this, though. You know, we were talking about the IRS and
Yeah.
Palantir. Well, here's a fun fact. IRS first began experimenting with computers in 1955 when it used a IBM 650 computer in Kansas City to process 1.1 million tax returns. That was a test. That was 1955. But they didn't go to full computerization until 1959 when they purchased an IBM 1401 and 7070 system.
Now, who let IBM into the room?
Oh,
Isn't
well.
that a private company?
I
What
think
were
they-
they doing giving anybody computers?
Didn't they work for? Didn't they work in Germany in World War II?
Oh, did
Ooh,
they?
yeah, they go way
Uh-oh.
back. Yeah, we've got.
We're even
Seriously,
more compromised than
weird
we
roots.
know, but by
No.
who?
Well, we can't say that. IBM's a good American company. Come on.
Yeah, I think IBM
So-
has tried to do the right thing
Yeah,
usually.
yeah. So by 67, all tax returns were processed by computer. Punch cards, as Bobby, as you were saying, was phased out once they got the system fully operational. That was just in
So
the
it
early
took from
days.
59 to 67. Huh?
67, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my father met my mother at a Bank of America party in Tokyo. And he was sent after the Second World War to Tokyo to take the stock market and all the banks in Japan and add these tabulators. He worked for Remington Rand.
Oh, Remington Rand, weren't they like competitors to IBM?
Yes. In fact, they actually bought the ENIAC computer, which was the first digital computer, at the time.
ENIAC, yeah.
He grew up in Indiana, and there was a company that made tabulator. They had copied the patent that Burroughs tabulators had. I don't know if you remember these adding machines, and they have 10 rows by 10 rows. So there were 100 of these buttons that you press, and you pull a crank. Well,
Yeah, I've seen those.
those were happening around World War One, and so my dad was in World War One, and then when he came out, he worked for this tabulator machine, and then he was hired by Remington Rand, and so he worked for them.
Rand Corporation, and didn't they have a big think tank?
Yeah, that Rand was a separate company.
Spun
Rand.
off, yeah. Then maybe they helped finance it.
Yeah, and they specifically had a kind of a right-wing conservative think tank. Yeah, that's true. But Remington was the people that in the Civil War created
Guns,
rifles.
right?
Yeah,
And
rifles.
also the mysterious house in San Jose, the Winchester house.
Oh, it's a
No.
Winchester. which is-
Winchester and Remington are not the same.
Okay, I'm sorry.
but they do make rifles. They both do make
okay.
rifles.
And associative brain. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
well, that's cool. Guns and computers. How about women? How about all those women that went into space yesterday?
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, Katy Perry and an all-female astronaut crew. Congratulations.
Yes.
to
What did they
them.
fly?
They fly out of West Texas.
Yeah, they were on the
All-female crew.
on the Shepherd, the Blue Origin Shepard crew
Blue
mission.
Origin.
Yeah. I loved watching them all talk about their spacesuits, and how much they loved each other and how great the mission was, just full of love. And it was marked by Katy Perry singing "What a Beautiful World." And
It was the New
really-
Shepard rocket, the Jeff Bezos group.
Yeah.
The 6-person flight was, I don't think there's ever been one that had 6 women on it before. There was a solo flight of a woman cosmonaut, Valentina Tereshkova, in 1963. She was the first woman in space. But this is where 6 women got up past the Kármán line. Mm-hmm. I think the one behind it was Lauren Sanchez,
Right. Jeff Bezos' fiancée.
his fiancée, and they were kidding. They were thinking, well, Jeff, if you wanted to get rid of me, you didn't have to send me to space.
I thought of that beforehand. It's like, is this going to be safe for these people? Well, it is the third time that I'm aware of that they've sent people up, right?
Right.
So
So it was fun. If you guys get a chance to check out any of the YouTube movies on this, it's fun to listen to them all.
yeah, and of course you can't help but feel you do want everyone to have this privilege, but you know that these are very privileged people, but they do acknowledge how special it is.
11 minutes. That's all it takes. 11 minutes. And
Yeah, it's like the most deluxe roller coaster ride you can experience.
that's it. Go past the Kármán line at 100 kilometers or 62 miles.
That's right.
That's the internationally recognized boundary of space right
That's
there.
right. Take off your seatbelts, ladies. Time to float.
Float for a few minutes in weightlessness.
Right.
Look at
And
the Earth.
apparently their indicator of weightlessness was each of them was bringing some little object that they could release and see when it floated. And one of them brought her medical wristband, that was her symbol of freedom.
I guess it's your zero indicator.
Yeah. Zero grav.
Thing is floating, you know you're in space.
Yeah. They really were very sweet women, and I was just struck by how different the tone is when women are involved. You feel the emotion, you feel the enthusiasm, you feel the joy. They are so aware of all humanity as they acknowledge their own experience. For me, it was a blessing to see an intention to highlight women in space.
Yeah.
They look like, well, dressed for the picture that in these space suits, they look like they could be either going scuba diving or they could be on board Star Trek, talking to Uhura or something.
Yeah, they're ready for whatever adventure that they might they have next. Yeah.
Right. They said who designed the spacesuit too, and I think it was somebody
let's
who
go
had
back.
designed
go to the
costumes for
moment.
them for the Met. So
Yeah.
it's a real fashionista kind of thing.
Yeah, there's quite a crowd around this. I'm playing some footage from the moment they landed, and there's a big crowd. And let's see if I can get some
someone just tell
information.
me when we're on. Does anyone have our app?
Okay, they're going to get ready to talk to Laura Sanchez here. She was the first.
All right, and you just saw it there. All 6 astronauts coming out, all ecstatic. Katy Perry and Gail King both kissing the earth. Very happy to be back down here, but clearly ecstatic. I don't know about you, Kristen, but my favorite was Lauren coming out and saying, "Where are my babies?"
And I also loved Katy Perry holding a daisy, I believe, and holding the daisy up to the sky after her daughter Daisy. Sweet moment.
With that, let's turn it over to Krista Thompson standing by outside the
Yeah,
capsule.
there you go.
don't really have words for it.
This is Laura Sanchez now. She's about
Lauren,
to talk to
I want to cry just seeing you.
I'm so proud of this crew. Gail, we were just talking in the capsule, doesn't even have ear piercings. She's so afraid to do anything. And she got in that capsule, and I think, it profoundly changed her. I mean, for me, I can't put it into words, but, I looked out the window, and we got to see the moon.
And it was pink. Was it pink?
The full moon. It wasn't pink, but it was almost full. And Earth looked it was so quiet. It was just quiet. And
Is it what you expected?
no.
Better.
Yeah. I don't think you can describe it. Because, what I was saying, it was quiet, but then also really alive. And you look at it and you're like, we're all in this together. Like, that's all I could think about is like, we're so connected, more connected than you realize, because you just see right here, you see like, states and all these things that like divide us, but we're not. And
What is your emotion? What makes you emotional?
Joy. Complete and utter joy and gratefulness. Like, it makes me want to come back and just hug everyone and be like, oh my God, we're in this together. Like, that's what this is. And
Jeff had told you that it will change you more than you know. And I know you're only a few minutes removed from the capsule, but I can tell already.
emotional.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. That gives you a feeling. And each of them had a very emotional connection with the.
All right, listen, we're going to take a little break and come back after a few words from the Santa Cruz community who supports Santa Cruz Voice, our favorite podcast station. Okay.
All right, hit it.
Hang tight.
Some like it hot.
Others not.
Find your taste at the Vets for Vets Chili Cook-Off Saturday, 11 to 2 at the VFW Post on 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz.
All are welcome to enjoy great chilies prepared by veteran teams with live music and games served up by the veterans who served our country.
See you at the Vets for Vets Chili Cook-Off Saturday, 11 to 2 at the VFW Post on 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. $20 donations. Vets eat free.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
Hi, I'm Nancy, the tasting room manager at Bargetto Winery in SoCal, where we've been producing award-winning wine since 1933. Our tasting rooms are open daily at our SoCal location at 3535 North Main Street, or in Monterey at 700 Cannery Row. We host weddings, receptions, and special events. Go to bargetto.com to find out more, or call 831-475-2258. There's always something happening at Bargetto Winery.
Please continue to hold, and he will answer your call in the order in which you'd like to see.
That won't happen at Low Cost Air. When you dial 800-704-1662, a real person answers and helps you find the best airfares, foreign and domestic. Your choice.
Please continue to hold, and he will...
Or a real person. Low Cost Air, 800-704-1662. Low Cost Air, 800-704-1662.
Okay, we are back. And you know what's interesting? The sensibilities of seeing the earth as a whole and as one and a living thing, it sounds simple, and yet it's a profound realization to see our planet as a whole. And it's what inspired astronaut Edgar Mitchell on Apollo 14 to see the earth that way, and inspired him to start the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
I would say that the Earth flag, that famous picture from the Apollo missions where they took a picture of the Earth from space for the first time, inspired a generation.
Yeah. And have that experience in your 11-minute journey to space and back is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I thought it was really funny at the end. There's a commercial for Blue Origin about how you too can go to space, and the whole era of space tourism. All you need is $250,000 and you can get on the waiting list to take this trip, this 11-minute journey to space.
Yes.
When we were talking about the Vomit Comet, it was only $5,000 a ticket.
Yeah, but you're not going to space.
20-minute.
You're just flying in the
That's just zero G, right? You
KC-135
cross the Kármán
transport
line.
plane, specially designed for
no quiet view of space
zero
from there.
gravity.
Just zero gravity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, still, I mean, that's where we met our zero gravity.
$245,000 more to go another 20 miles in space.
But hey, it was a start, and kudos to Frank Petronegro, our artist buddy in San Francisco, who became one of the the first zero gravity artist.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to paint in zero gravity.
Yes, that's right.
Took the
Claimed
Vomit
fame
Comet to
on the
train
Vomit
him to
Comet.
do that. And God knows what he would do if he was actually in space. Be worth finding out.
He's someone who can definitely appreciate being high.
Oh, really? No, I think the thing is that when you're up there, you have no sense of gravity, so you can't use a paintbrush and paint straight lines or curves. You can't be very precise. So he figured out that the best way was more of a Jackson Pollock approach and just throw paint.
Just throw it. Yeah, he put himself into a
circular
sealed container and painted on the walls by hurling things at the edge.
Yeah, I'd say put yourself in a circular piece of canvas and throw stuff at it.
Yeah.
As you float around and see what sticks. And ideally you want a 360 canvas, a canvas sphere all around you.
Yeah. Well, the rules are a little different in zero G.
Yeah. But that way you'll capture everything that you do with your paint.
Right.
Or, you could cover your body in paint and then just roll around on the edges.
Well, I'm sure he got a lot of paint on his body
sure
when he was trying to get it on the wall.
Zero gravity artist Frank Petronegro in San Francisco.
If you're listening, Frank, we love you.
Yeah. There was an earthquake down in L.A. You heard about that?
No, I didn't hear about that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, it was a Monday magnitude 5.2 trembler, they call it.
Sure, well, it makes you tremble.
But what's great about this one was that it tested out California's earthquake early warning system. And there were many users who said that it worked great, that they got a warning on their phones before they felt the shaking.
Wow.
Before, which is what you need in an early warning system.
How did they get it before?
Well, the idea is that the actual earthquake travels at the speed of sound. And if you have sensors hooked up all over California, and it travels more closer to the speed of light for the warning.
Oh, I get it.
You see? So you have that slight advantage. And for some areas, it could be the seconds you need to run outside or to get under your table or whatever.
Does it tell you in this article how much warning people got?
Yeah, it says it depends on how far away you were from the earthquake. But different people had different amounts of time before they were notified. The Shake Alert system, they call it. Shake Alert Earthquake Warning System.
Yeah.
People in Camarillo, Manhattan Beach, Palm Springs, Riverside, the San Diego neighborhood of Rancho Pinaquitos, Santa Ana, and southern Orange County.
So they all got a little text before they felt the
They got the early
earthquake.
warning before it started.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's...
They said Corona Del Mar says they got an alert 5 to 10 seconds before the big jolt.
That's cool.
Somebody got it and felt it in Palm Springs. 5+ seconds. Yeah, so that's great. That means everyone is prepared for a little bit of shaking.
Yeah. Well, imagine what the AIs can do when they have 5 seconds of warning. Probably better than people. I mean, we might not even have our phones unlocked in time to get the warning.
Yeah. Well, if you want the warning, there's a free app developed by UC Berkeley called MyShake, MyShake. It's one of the fastest ways to get early warning. You can use that app. It can be downloaded, Androids, iPhones, iPads, Macs. They've been testing it in other locations too. Humboldt County test, there's a magnitude 7 last December. It tested the system then. And on December 9th, there was a 5.7 near Reno, which was felt strongly across Central California. And there's also what they call the SD emergency app in San Diego County. They also include their warning system on that. I would imagine they would put it out there like an Amber Alert.
Yeah, I'm downloading it now. It looks like I did have it on one of my older iPhones.
Oh, yeah?
So
MyShake, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I did take some classes at Berkeley and in the geography department, and there's in the basement of Evans, they have this shake machine, and it has the thing, and it's been running for 50 years, I guess. But anyway, it's got the little pens, and it's got the rolling
seismograph.
paper. Yeah, seismograph. That was it.
Oh, yeah,
So
those rotating barrels.
Yeah.
The squiggly lines going on.
Yeah, I think that's outdated today. I think our phones can probably pick up better shakes than that.
Sure. Your phone that says, "Did you fall?" It can say, "Is there an earthquake?"
Well, I would say Earthquake Nerds know sites where you could watch those lines digitally going across your screen.
Mm.
You know, and you could see
There you
seismographic
go.
information from various sensors. You know, there's thousands of sensors out there. There must be a network of sensor readings that you can look at in real time. If you were enough of a earthquake nerd, you know, you could be able to compare. You'd probably have a big screen that has the San Francisco lines on it, tracking the various fault lines that you're interested in looking at. Because apparently a lot of the fault lines are active all the time. They're just sub-threshold levels of activity below 1.0 earthquakes, but there's energy there. And if you like to watch earthquake patterns, they're a fine one to check into because they're very sophisticated and we have the sensors for it.
I like to compare it to when you're watching at the beach, and you know how you have these cliffs that have been created by the water, sand tide cliffs that are the kinds that you can jump on and slide down and made of sand.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Yeah, and I think when you watch those things fall into the water, it's very much like a tiny version of what's going on with earthquakes.
Interesting comparison, my dear.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got a message in from Richard down in Long Beach. He says, a loud alarm on the phone. You check for alarm, see text, duck and cover.
Oh, dear.
3, 2, 1, earthquake. He says it was the first time ever he got a warning in Long Beach.
Oh, my. And did he feel the earthquake, I wonder? Richard, if you're listening, let us know if you felt the earthquake.
5 to 5, what was it, 5.2 trembler?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's probably on the edge of it, but
That's pretty funny if you get the earthquake warning and then you never get the actual earthquake.
Yeah, it's going to be
That's a little too sensitive.
Sky is
probably.
falling kind of.
Fear!
Yeah,
Be
you-
afraid! We need to save you.
So that's good news. I like the tech
Yeah.
for doing that.
I like the effort is a worthy effort, right? Let's try and have our sensors tell us how to be safer.
And it gets me thinking, if we kind of know where the earthquake's going to travel, that's a lot of energy that's moving through the ground. And if we could somehow tap that energy of the earthquake.
Didn't you, for the big quake, didn't you actually see the ground moving?
It was amazing. Well, the whole ground became like an ocean, again, the way it moved.
Huh.
Where were you?
I was here in Boulder Creek, the 89 quake. 89 quake.
It was just 6 miles away, the origin.
We had a field
The Loma
in front of me.
Prieta.
I had a field in front of me in the house. I just saw it go through the field like a wave. And trees were shaking like crazy. The dog ran out of the house, disappeared for a day. You know, it was nuts.
Yeah.
Richard said he did feel the quake.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Glad
good.
to know the warning and the actual event were connected.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and Richard, did you duck and cover?
He said he did. Look at that. He said, yeah, he said he had enough time to crawl under the table.
All right. All right. Well,
And away
I hope
from this.
that was better for you than not.
Away-
At our age, man, crawling under the table can be problematic itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's lucky because he was near a giant chandelier. So
Oh,
get
wow.
away from that.
I didn't know Richard had a giant chandelier.
We don't know
Cool.
where he was, unless he's been Long Beach.
Well,
Okay, well,
I'm
it's-
glad you all survived.
Yeah, and I don't know if I should say that it's something to look forward to and to do the new test on your phone, but be
If you
ready
want to know, you have access
Yeah,
to the
keep your
data.
phone handy.
That's good to know. I'd
And-
say as long as you have a desire to find out, I'm glad that we're covered.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I was up in Santa Rosa and there was a big quake that came in, but I was looking out. We had this sliding glass door in our kitchen, and I'm looking out about half a mile, and you could see these telephone poles, and they were all lined up. And then as I felt the shake, I looked out there, and I could see the telephone poles and the lines. They were just dropping, kind of like how dominoes go in a series. Well, now these poles, they were dropping. It looked like maybe a foot or so.
Wow.
And it moved across, and it was moving, maybe like 20 miles an hour or something, it looked like, across. And you could actually see
Sort of like
the
a
lines
wave
and
on the
poles.
ocean, huh? But
Yeah,
it was a land wave.
It
on
was.
the land.
Yes.
That's what it was.
That's what was weird about it. It was on the land and showed you how fluid land can become given enough energy.
Yeah, it just blew my mind. Yeah, it was crazy.
A lot of energy there. So I was thinking that if you ever figured out how to harness the energy of an earthquake and store that, that would be something. But, it'd have to be instant storage of a massive amount of electricity that's changing in its quality and frequencies in real time. It's not real clean energy.
Well,
It's real.
when you're talking about harnessing it,
Yeah.
I'm picturing something like surfing. Somehow you have to surf the waves.
Well, I think more like you would have maybe little things in the quake crevices that got shook, and the shaking was turned into electromagnetic force.
Interesting.
Massive shaking, something that knew how to harness shake energy.
Huh.
For
And
example.
what would you use that energy for?
Whatever,
Alarms?
you know, I mean, put it in the grid.
Turning on some bells somewhere.
Put it in the grid. What's interesting was that there was also new seismic evidence that Mars might be home to life right now.
I thought
That's
that
another story. This.
I thought they had some recent, fairly definitive evidence of that.
Oh, before we go to that, the chandelier was a metaphor, says.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
But he actually did. Richard did actually crawl under the table.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you survived. I'm glad you can crawl under the table, and I hope your exit was equally easy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're really nerd about it, you say, well, how long under the table were you? Did you stay? How fearful were you of this quake? And did you have a follow-up call to say all safe to get out yet?
I'm trying to imagine you crawling under a table, Al.
Yeah.
That would be a feat unto itself.
Yeah. I need my robotic table where
Well, most of
It'd
your
crawl over
tables
me.
have like so many
Crawl over me.
cables, it would be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I guess so. Back to Mars.
Back to Mars.
A recent seismic analysis of the NASA's InSight mission data suggests that liquid water could still exist beneath the surface of Mars today. Liquid water.
I
Liquid
recall
water.
something recent that they found a huge underground water reservoir on Mars.
Well, that's what they're saying. They're using seismic activity to analyze what's under the Martian surface.
Mm-hmm.
Looking into the depths of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
There is a study titled Seismic Discontinuity in the Martian Crust, possibly caused by water-filled cracks.
Is this liquid water or frozen
Liquid water.
ice?
Well, they say liquid. I guess it's under the ground, so it's a little warmer than on the surface. More like the cave temperature.
There's supposed to be an underground ocean on the Earth here somewhere.
There's supposed to be a lot of water under the ocean itself. I heard under the Sahara, there's a massive amounts of water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the
there's some
desert
big
areas.
anomaly that causes a variation in the magnetosphere.
You know, if we're just becoming aware of that. It's before long, our crazy monkey brains will start figuring out how to get to that water.
Yeah.
To turn the Sahara into a jungle.
A tropical.
Yeah, right.
area.
Something
Yeah.
the opposite, because something deserving of all that heat. Of course, getting rid of the Sahara would drastically change weather patterns on the planet, and not might be so good for somewhere else like here. But that's why we have simulations, right? And have giant AI computers to help us figure out what happens if we change something, like take out millions of gallons of water from underneath the Sahara.
Somehow that
Yeah.
echoes the original Knowledge Navigator commercial where that professor is late for his lecture and he gets his AI to put together some maps of the weather patterns on the Sudan. Right.
Right. Yeah, it's something that.
But I've seen these shows where they talked about on the Western Sahara Desert, there used to be, it was tropical. They found all these tropical plants.
Yeah.
And we're talking like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. And it was like lush, kind of like the Amazon. It was very lush, lots of trees. And then it just dried up. So
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think it would be beneficial if they could tap into that with a well.
You
And,
do, yeah. See what I mean? And there are a lot of people like you, Bobby, that would agree that, that finding massive amounts of water in a desertified area could be good.
Well, just coming from the point of view of what it takes just to get water out of a well that is only a few hundred feet deep, we're talking some major engineering to go any further.
I think it's probably under pressure. So when you first tap a oil well, it'll start spewing out like a fountain.
Yeah.
So I think the water would spew out like a fountain, I would guess.
Well, that's supposedly what fracking is, right? Fracking is pumping in water to push out the oil.
Well, the problem is, actually, I did ask Rock about this. There's significant reserves under the Sahara, and mostly in the form of fossil groundwater stored in vast aquifers.
Huh.
And they have what's called the Nubian Sandstone Aquifer System, NSAS. It's one of the largest in the world, 2 million square kilometers across Libya, Egypt, Chad, and Sudan. holding 150,000 to 370,000 cubic kilometers of water, accumulated during wetter periods of the Quaternary period, thousands to hundreds of thousands of years ago, when the Sahara was greener and had abundant rainfall. Yeah, so though it's usable, much of the water is classified as fossil water, meaning it's not actively replenished by the current hydrological cycles, like a non-renewable resource, like oil. I guess they're wondering if it's that kind of fossil water is as useful as the more recycled water that's more surface-oriented. Also, they said part of the problem in the Sahara is that they did historical nuclear testing there in the 50s and the 60s, and it left some aquifers contaminated with radiation.
Really?
Yeah.
In the Sahara?
In the Sahara.
Oh, how awful.
So that risks soil
you wouldn't want to
degradation,
drink it, I guess?
shall we say?
Okay.
That's it.
Now we're duly warned.
Right. Maybe that's why everyone has such weird minds in the Middle East, the contaminated water.
Irradiated water.
I don't know.
There you go.
Massive.
The rumor starts here.
Yeah, it's something that's being considered. They don't consider that fossil water to be as non-renewable, and the environmental risks. I mean, it's not a simple solution for handling the region's water scarcity, according to our Grok AI friends here.
We love our Grok AI friends.
Yeah, they
They're
keep
so
us honest.
knowledgeable.
Yeah. Water on Mars. That's the takeaway from the InSight lander. That we had a seismic unit there called InSight, and it discovered lots of water, possibly in the cracks in the crust of Mars.
All right. Well, how deep? 20 kilometers deep. I don't know. That's still pretty hard. Doesn't bode well for the colony, I'd say.
20 kilometers? I don't know.
All right. Well, hey,
a little radiation.
we're about to go to a little top of the hour break here. Some
extremophiles. Maybe extremophiles would survive on Mars. Oh. The ones that live under the earth? Yeah, I think so.
Find out when we get back.
It could support them. And we're back. During the break, Bobby was telling us about a real bonus thing you might.
What's this? Some free
get some
money,
extra
Bobby?
free money.
We can do something today. Get some IRS free money.
There's a big if on it, right?
I didn't file my taxes in 2022.
Yeah.
And there were 3 stimulus checks, and I got the first 2, but then the qualification for the last one was you had to have filed 2022 taxes. But so in January, they changed the rule, and they said, if you file by today, you can recover or get that last payment if you didn't get it because you didn't file in 2022. So all you have to do is by the end of the day, file for 2022 if you didn't get that check.
Did we have to file to get it in the first place?
Yes, that was the rule before at the time, and that's why I didn't get.
We never filed.
Yeah, so if you
didn't know.
if you file today, just for the year 2022, and you didn't get a check, the third check, then they should send you a check for that. I think it was around $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's worth.
All right. Well, thanks for sending us the link here, Bobby. We'll check it out. I still have to go make one more California payment today. I owe them like $15, and I'm required to file online.
My recommendation is this: file an extension today, because the IRS, there might not be an IRS
by the end of the year
next year. So there could be a lot of tax changes that could affect us retroactively for 2024 by the end of the year or by October 15th when you file the extension.
Hope you're right.
So,
boy, that'd be amazing.
And I don't want to have to file when you redo your taxes. I don't want to have to pay the accountant extra money for them to redo my taxes if there's any changes.
Oh, I guess you have to balance that between paying a penalty if you haven't filed your taxes and then you owe them money and you pay it late. I guess you got to pay your money either way.
But either way, you could not pay the money. You could just say you don't owe any taxes, and then on October 15th, they're going to charge you an interest penalty for not giving money on April 15th today. But it's not going to be that much.
Yeah,
So,
you think it'll be less than what you pay your accountant?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. That's a good call then.
Yeah.
I had a couple of stories from Larry and Mary that are pretty cool.
Oh, our favorite AI co-hosts.
Yeah.
Okay, Larry and Mary.
Yeah. They tackled two very different topics. One of them is about a CIA report from KGB files about a strange alien encounter by Russian soldiers.
Hey, there you go. The
Yeah.
more the disclosure is upon us, the less we're hearing
Yeah.
about aliens in the
A
news.
declassified CIA report from the 90s based on a former KGB file.
Okay,
And
let's
it's a
hear it.
bizarre incident where Soviet soldiers were somehow turned into stone by a UFO,
Now,
by aliens.
It sounds
What's
biblical.
the source of
It
this?
sounds like
It
no,
also
it is a
sounds like
declassified
clickbait.
CIA report. No, I'll start the report, and you tell me if this sounds plausible or not. Okay,
Okay.
Larry and Mary.
Okay, so you want to get right into it, figure out what's important fast. Let's do it. We've got a really strange one today. It's this declassified CIA report from the 90s, and it talks about this alleged incident. Well, it sounds completely sci-fi. Soviet soldiers, a UFO in Ukraine, and an ending that's just wild.
Yeah, and this isn't just, some random story. The CIA report is supposedly based on a huge, 250-page KGB file they got hold of. This was after the Soviet Union fell apart in 91.
Right.
Now, bits of this story did pop up earlier. I think Canadian Weekly World News mentioned it, and Holo's Ukraini too. But this CIA doc, well, that's supposedly the detailed, pretty unsettling version.
And, we're talking about UAPs now, unidentified aerial phenomena, and all the new files coming out. These older cases are sort of resurfacing.
Right.
This one, though, it really stands out because it's just so bizarre. So our mission, let's say, in this deep dive is to really look at what this report claims. What are the core details? And why does it still grab people's attention? It kind of challenges everything, doesn't it?
It really does. So let's get into the main event described, this alleged attack. Try to picture it. Soviet soldiers, they're doing a training exercise. Standard stuff, presumably. Then, boom. A low-flying spaceship, described specifically as saucer-shaped, appears. What goes through your head hearing that initial setup?
It's just jarring, right?
Yeah.
You're on a routine drill, maybe bored even, and then that shows up.
Yeah.
Completely out of the blue. But the report says it didn't just appear. Apparently, someone fired a missile, a surface-to-air missile. The report doesn't say who fired it or exactly why, but it apparently hit the UFO. Knocked it out of the sky.
Which is already pretty incredible, hitting and downing something like that. But what supposedly happened after it crashed is where it gets even stranger. The report claims 5 short humanoids came out of the wreckage. In the description, large heads and large black eyes.
The classic gray alien look, almost.
Exactly. Which is interesting in itself, right? That familiar description popping up in such an extreme alleged event. What does it suggest to you?
It's almost, I don't know, like our collective consciousness has this image ready.
Yeah.
Even for something this intense. And the report mentions eyewitnesses saying some of these beings actually got away, fled the crash site. Imagine the scene for the soldiers. Total confusion, disbelief.
Utter chaos, you'd think. But the beings that didn't flee, their reported actions are, well, hard to process. Instead of just running, the report says the survivors huddled up and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape.
Merged. Like physically became one thing. A sphere.
That's the claim. Merged into a sphere. What even is that? It just pushes past anything we understand scientifically.
Yeah, completely. And that wasn't even the end of it, according to this account.
No. So this sphere, it supposedly started growing, getting bigger and bigger. Then it exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light.
An explosion of light.
And here's the truly horrific part of the claim. 23 soldiers who saw this instantly turned into
stone poles,
just petrified instantly.
Where
That's
are
what
they
the report
now?
alleges. Turned to stone. What kind of energy, what kind of weapon could possibly do that to living tissue so fast?
It's almost unthinkable. Just
Yeah.
solid stone. And the report adds this detail about 2 soldiers surviving.
Right. 2 survivors. And the reason given is that they were supposedly standing in the shade.
In the shade. So the shade protected them from this light explosion.
Apparently. that detail, as bizarre as it is, adds this weird sort of specificity, doesn't it? Like maybe it was a specific kind of radiation blocked by simple shade?
It implies something about the nature of the force, maybe? Some kind of directed energy? It's chilling.
It really is. So after this alleged catastrophe, what happened? Well, the report claims the debris from the UFO and the petrified soldiers, they were all taken away, moved to some secret research facility near Moscow.
Right. Immediate cleanup, total secrecy. That tells you how seriously the authorities allegedly took this, doesn't it? Extreme concern. Keep it under wrap.
Yeah, so it gives you an idea.
Okay, I guess that answers my question about what happened to the stone bodies.
Oh, yeah, they were put in a government warehouse somewhere.
They're classified, deep buried.
Gee, I wonder if there's any interesting origin stories to all those bodies found of Chinese warriors.
Yeah, that.
The terracotta warriors.
Yeah, were they stone
warriors,
too? Were
yeah.
they, no, they weren't stone though, right?
But do you remember there was, in the Bible, there was the city of sin, and if the people
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah, that's the story.
Yeah.
So that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, the nuclear blast, and people were turned to salt. I think pillars of salt in that one.
Yeah.
But have you ever heard about a bunch of grays going together and merging into one body and becoming a sphere and then putting out a light that turns whoever sees the light into stone?
Can't say I've ever heard that one before. Nope.
The only thing I know about light and stone was anybody who looked at
Medusa.
Yeah, with the
right.
With the when he looked into the eyes of Medusa,
right. She
became
had
stone.
snakes for hair.
So that was a light thing. You're not supposed to look away and not stare at her.
Right.
But she was so compelling that you had to look at her.
Well, yeah,
right?
well, you could accidentally look at her. But I think that what finally worked for whoever it was that got past her is he looked at her through a mirror. So he held a mirror, so she looked at herself and turned to stone.
That's right.
It's brilliant. Mirrors to the rescue. I wonder if that would have worked with these aliens.
Yeah, well, apparently if you stand in the shade with your mirror, it would work.
Yeah, you'd be in the shade, you'd be okay.
Reflect that sunlight back on your enemy.
Yeah.
Anyway, this takes a cake for weird miscellaneous knowledge, Al.
Well, I just wanted to see how they would do on a story like that. What do you think? Do you think they did a good job on it?
They take it so seriously.
Yeah.
Larry and Mary just have no capacity for irony or even telling the difference between nonsense and fact. I think that their ability to hallucinate convincingly is unsurpassed.
It's true. Is any part of this true at all, or not?
Yeah. This supposedly is a true story. Yeah.
And it happened in Ukraine?
Yes, it happened in the Ukraine.
So maybe it's kind of like Saddam Hussein, since he was in the biblical place between the Tigris and Euphrates River. That's where Iraq was, and Babylon, and the Tower of Babylon, and all this. Apparently, there was a stargate in the ground that they had discovered, an ancient stargate. And that's what it was all about.
Ancient Stargate.
Why we had to take over Iraq is to
get the. I've heard that too.
Stargate.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Well, I mean,
so maybe Putin was trying to.
There was a big museum heist right at the beginning of that attack. Yeah. So
where
would you hide a Stargate?
Yeah, they put all the fakes above ground, and they took all the real stuff and they put them underground so that the people stole the fakes.
Oh,
apparently.
You'd think they would have figured that out by now.
Maybe they're just figuring it out.
Yeah, this thing doesn't work. You just don't know the code.
Yeah. Maybe that's why Putin wants the Ukraine. Maybe there's something.
It's a good story. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe this sounds like a really.
Well, if you just look at a map of why he wants Ukraine, he wants it because it has a border that's on the water. He wants all of those former Soviet Union states that allow him to launch his submarines and allow him to have shipping. And he doesn't want those to be foreign nations that aren't friendly to Russia.
Oh, here's another clue. Apparently the scientists studying the remains of these soldiers, found that they were composed of a limestone-like substance. Very similar to limestone.
Limestone, huh?
Yeah.
How does a human body turn into limestone?
Right.
It's not salt this time.
Not just rock. No, we have a little more data. It's not just rock. It's limestone. What is the elements of limestone? You know, if you want to get into I
It
could,
sounds like maybe sudden evaporation or something.
I guess lime is a base. It's like kind of like soap. Instead of an acid, it's a base.
Yeah.
They would sprinkle lime dust over when they buried people in medieval times.
Really? They did lime, not salt? I thought it was salt.
It was lime. They would throw, and somehow it killed off the bacteria that was causing them to smell bad.
Oh.
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
what do you put on bodies to cause them to
Like baking soda?
dissolve more quick? Lime, right? Didn't you?
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen those James Bond movies or something. Oh, they were acid. Some were acid, but you can also do it with lime. So you can either have a really strong acid or a really strong base, which is lime.
Okay, well, you use acid to dissolve things made of protein, and you use base to dissolve things made of carbohydrates.
But they don't make limestone when you put them on bodies, though, do they? No, probably not.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. This is a light thing. See if I can get the AIs in interactive mode and we can ask them.
Okay, yeah, we got some questions for you, Larry and Mary. Are you ready?
Let's see. Okay, let's try this.
Oh, hey there. How can we help?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. How can you turn human bodies into limestone? Is there any way in which that can actually happen?
They're thinking.
Oh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really cuts to the core of the unbelievable nature of this report.
Right. Turning living tissue into something near identical to limestone.
From our current scientific understanding, it's not something we know how to do.
Exactly. I mean, limestone is mostly calcium carbonate.
And human bodies are complex organic structures.
So a direct, instant transformation like that.
It would require a fundamental rearrangement of atoms and molecules.
Some kind of energy or process we just don't comprehend.
Which is what makes this claim so mind-boggling. What could do that?
It really pushes the boundaries of what we consider possible.
It forces you to speculate about unknown physics.
All right. That's,
All right.
They don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
But at least they told us that the components of lime, calcium carbonate.
Yeah.
Right? So we definitely know that there's carbon and there's some calcium. Carbonate, what is that? That has been affected with oxygen, right?
Yeah, it's carbon. Yeah, it's a very strong base, calcium carbonate. Yeah. So if you mix that with vinegar or any kind of acid, you get
explosion.
Yes, the bubbling and reaction, high reaction.
That Skittles experiment. No.
Yeah, exactly. The volcano.
Okay, well, anyway, sci-fi meets entertainment.
Remember last week, I did last week, Larry and Mary, another question on a story. We were talking about gold and how gold could become a new standard. The old standard becomes the new standard.
Does the AI know how to turn lead into gold? Didn't we ask him that last time?
Yeah. And you could do it with a nuclear reactor or a particle accelerator.
Right. Beaming protons into your elements or something.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So part of the question that I found this week was there was an interesting report about how fungi can metabolize gold.
Well, anybody can eat gold.
No, not metabolize it. I mean, it was an Australian scientist in 2019 discovered that certain types of mushroom fungi had the ability to metabolize it somehow, to collect it, incorporate gold particles, despite the chemical's inertness. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, how exactly does that work? I think that's where, if you can look at the ground and you can see where the gold is based on what the fungus like, the fungus collect where the gold is, they create patterns, then it would save a lot in terms of destructive damage to the environment. So I asked Larry and Mary about that, and they try to explain this to you. It's a slightly difficult topic, but bear with me. We'll try to do it in just a few minutes here.
Okay.
Paul Stamets.
Okay, so Paul Stamets, yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that they found some fungus that actually consolidates radioactivity for the bomb in the 40s. A lot of the ground is radioactive, right? But they found that this fungus can actually absorb and kind of concentrate the radioactive minerals that were in the ground. And then you just pick up the mushrooms. They're highly radioactive, of course, but then it kind of consolidates that area and kind of removes the radioactivities because of the fungus.
Amazing. Fungus are able to do all kinds of miraculous things.
Yes.
So if they can collect gold, I think it could change the whole mining industry, particularly if we get into space mining. So I'm real curious whether or not it's practical at all. Let's listen to a couple minutes of this report here.
You know, sometimes you hear a fact that just sticks with you. I came across one like that recently. Get this. Scientists back in 2019 found a fungus that does something really weird with gold.
Uh-huh.
And it's not what you'd think. Like, it's not eating it for fuel or anything. It's, well, different.
Oh, yeah. I know the way you mean. It's fascinating because gold, I mean, it's famous for being incredibly unreactive, right?
Yeah.
Chemically inert.
Exactly.
So the idea that this common fungus, Fusarium oxysporum, which usually just breaks down, dead stuff, can mess with gold, that's pretty unexpected. The CSIRO guys in Australia, Dr. Bohu's team, really stumbled onto something.
Right. So that's what we're diving into today. We want to unpack the who, what, when, where, and really the why of this whole gold fungus thing.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Look at how it might lead to cleaner gold mining, maybe. And even, get this, its role in future asteroid mining.
That's the really wild part.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so first things first. What is this fungus actually doing to the gold? Is it eating it or?
No, not eating in the traditional sense. It's more like chemical manipulation. It uses something called redox processes, oxidation and reduction, basically fiddling with the gold's electrons.
Okay, redox. So like taking electrons away and giving them back.
Precisely. Some strains can oxidize the pure metal gold, OAO, turning it into dissolved gold ions like OO.
How?
Well, it seems they secrete certain organic compounds, maybe things like ketones. These molecules sort of latch onto the gold atoms and coax electrons away, making the gold dissolve.
Huh.
Yeah, researchers actually saw it happen. They noticed these little clear zones, halos, around the fungus colonies on gold-laced agar plates. The gold was just gone in those spots.
Wow, okay. So it dissolves it. But I also read something about nanoparticles, tiny gold particles.
Right, that's the other side of the coin, the reduction part. The fungus can also take those dissolved gold ions, the OO, and turn them back into solid gold, OO.
But tiny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It forms these incredibly small gold nanoparticles, maybe 20 to 50 nanometers across. And it can happen really quickly, sometimes in less than an hour.
So first it dissolves it, then it rebuilds it. It's super small. How does it do the rebuilding part, the reduction?
Again, it seems to be down to stuff the fungus releases secreted molecules, probably proteins, enzymes, things called reductases. These essentially donate electrons back to the gold ions.
Okay.
And when that happens, the ions turn back into metal atoms and clump together into these nanoparticles. You can even see it visually sometimes. If you put the fungus in a solution with gold ions, like or chloride, the liquid might turn this amazing purple color.
Purple? From gold?
Yeah, it's a sign the nanoparticles are forming. It's called surface plasmon resonance. The tiny particles interact with light differently. Pretty cool indicator.
That is cool. So is it just any fusarium, oxysporum, or?
Good question. No, it seems pretty specific to certain strains. Not all F-oxysporum might do it or do it as well. And related fungi, like Fusarium maniliform, might not do the same thing with, say, silver.
Interesting.
Yeah, and even more specific, some of the strains that are really good at it are actually plant pathogens, like the one causing Panama disease in bananas.
Wait, plant attackers? Why would they be good at messing with gold?
Well, one theory is it's kind of a side effect. Maybe the same biochemical tools they use to fight off a plant's defenses, which involves dealing with oxidative stress, just happen to work on gold ions too. It wasn't evolved for gold, but the capability was there.
Huh. An accidental talent. Okay, so we know what it's doing, this redox stance, and who is doing the specific F-oxysporum strains. Remind me again, when and where was this first really pinned down?
The big splash was in 2019 from that Australian research group at CSIRO in Australia.
Right.
But what makes it even more compelling is that it's not just a lab trick. They found evidence of this happening naturally out in the environment.
Really? Where?
In gold-rich soils, particularly in Western Australia. Scientists have seen the fungus there with tiny gold nanoparticles literally stuck to its threads, its hyphae. Suggests it's dissolving gold from the soil and then reprecipitating it right there.
Okay, so this is happening in the wild. That brings us to the why. Why should we care? How could this change gold mining on Earth? You mentioned cleaner extraction.
Exactly. Think about prospecting. Finding new gold deposits is getting harder and often involves a lot of disruptive exploration.
Drilling, digging.
Yeah. But if these specific gold-interacting fungal strains thrive mainly where there's gold underneath, well, you could potentially just sample the soil for the fungus. Use it as a bioindicator.
Like how people used to look for certain plants.
Kind of like that, yeah. A less invasive, maybe more targeted way to prospect. It could make finding the remaining gold less damaging environmentally. More sustainable, potentially.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, but the bit that really blew my mind was the space angle.
Space mining.
Asteroid mining.
Yes.
Using fungus. How does that work?
Right, this is where it gets really futuristic. Yeah. The idea is called metabolic mineralogy. Instead of sending, massive, heavy, complex refining equipment to an asteroid.
Which would be incredibly expensive.
Exactly. You could potentially send spores of these fungi, maybe ones we've even optimized in the lab. Let them grow on the asteroid ore.
And they'd just extract the gold.
In theory, yes. They could dissolve the gold or other valuable metals from the rock and concentrate it, maybe as nanoparticles again. It would be a biological pre-processing step happening right there in space.
Yeah.
Much lighter, maybe cheaper, possibly more efficient than trying to replicate Earth-based refining out there.
Yeah, wow, huh?
Wow. It reminds me that these manganese nodules that they find in the oceans, they produce electricity and they concentrate gold and things like that.
Yes.
But there's so much nanoparticles of gold in the ocean. It's just that you can't. This mushroom would be perfect because what it does, it just kind of concentrate these nanoparticles into little crystals.
Yeah, that's interesting. We need a aquatic version of this fungi.
Yeah.
That could process.
Here. And extract gold out of the ocean.
Extract gold out of the ocean automatically for us. Fascinating idea, Bobby. Hey, listen, we got to go to a break. We'll be
we're
right
going to
back.
extract some gold from these airwaves.
Yeah, we're going to do our version of extracting gold. Hey, guys, help pay for us, will you?
Have fun. We'll be right back.
It's time to get down to business, and here is how. Hello, I'm Alex Peterson from the Santa Cruz Small Business Development Center with an invitation for you to attend our annual Small Business Summit, May 9th at Cabrillo College. During this day-long event with more than 15 breakout sessions, you'll get to meet, greet, and learn from the leaders of our business community and community leaders like Mayor Fred Keeley. Register today at SantaCruzSmallBusinessSummit.com. SantaCruzSmallBusinessSummit.com.
Treehouse dispenses not only the finest cannabis products, but information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Hello, I'm Jenna. If you would like to know how best to use cannabis, ask your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive. If you're 21 plus with a valid ID, no appointment is necessary and the information is free. Order online at ourtreehouse.io and pick up at our drive-thru. See you soon.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on SoCal Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Hi, folks. I've been tarred and feathered, run over by a lettuce truck, snake bit, stepped on, yelled at, hung out to dry. My truck has noises. Life can't get any worse, but I know I can get one of my things fixed, and that's my roof. I'll call Knox Roofing. I know Knox Roofing's been around longer than my ex-wife. Thanks for listening. Call Knox Roofing. You won't be disappointed. The number to call is 461-0634. Thanks, folks.
Okay, we's back. Boy, time's flying. We only have one more segment left on today's show. Mm-hmm. And we got some interesting stories here involving a breakthrough on cancer.
Oh, hey, that reminds me, we got Billy Sunshine telling us to say hi to Norman for him.
Oh, yeah, speaking. Yeah. Hey, Norm.
Don't know why that came up that way. Sorry.
Cancer, right? Is the associated word here.
They just happen to be next to each other on the screen.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Just pure serendipity. Yeah. Okay, well, this new cancer therapy disguises tumors as pork.
What?
Pork, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, to trigger immune attacks.
So the therapy actually puts a disguise on the cancer?
Yeah, it's researchers that turn the immune response. That you know how you always hear about how when people are getting organ transplants and they get rejection responses from the body, That won't take the organ, didn't take the heart, didn't take the kidney, the liver because of immune responses.
Yeah, the body
Well,
rejects anything that isn't its own.
Yeah, and that immune response is very powerful, and it rejects the organ. Well, this research is like that idea only triggering off that immune response to a cancer tumor.
Wow.
So you inject a specially programmed virus that creates an adverse immune response by your immune system.
So you're giving your tumor a virus.
And you take that response, and like your body might respond really badly to pork DNA and being in your system. And so that's, in this case, what they did is that they insert this immune response to pork into a cancer cell.
It sounds like it's an mRNA kind of strategy.
Well,
I mean, if they're using some kind of genetic manipulation to targeted cells. Doesn't say that.
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't say that. They call it a tumor to pork strategy. It's published in a Cell magazine.
That's probably because mRNA has gotten such a bad rap after COVID.
Yeah. It is a form demonstrating engineering a virus that tricks the human body into believing that cancer cells are pig tissue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and it triggers a hyperacute inflammatory response, which is the immune system getting rid of it.
All right, so just a little background
the virus begins attacking the tumor with a 90% success rate to the point of curing patients with advanced cervical cancer.
Now, did I understand correctly that this virus, what it's actually doing is inserting some kind of pork-type DNA into the tumor cells? Is that correct?
Yes. You take a relatively benign virus, the Newcastle disease virus, or NDV, doesn't cause any harm or little harm to humans, and you inject a pig gene to create a mutated version of
into
that
the virus.
Yeah.
So you mutate the virus genes and give it a little pig gene. Okay.
And then you go to the cancerous tumors and you infect them with this virus.
Mm-hmm.
So the pig gene effectively has alerted the body to a foreign entity that inspires rejection. And so they pulverize the cancer cell.
Okay.
That die. Clever.
It seems like what's happening is cancer cells, they have this cloaking device where they make the outside of their cells look like regular human cells.
Right. So your body accepts them.
So somehow this virus is taking off that cloaking thing and saying, I'm no longer a human cell look-alike, that I'm a tumor, but actually I'm a pig cell.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, and it's
attack me. I'm a pig cell. Attack me.
Just in terms of the history of transplant tissues, the very first human transplant was a pig heart, a porcine heart that was transplanted into a human. So there's a lot of research on how to work with the rejection of pig cells, like the chemistry of preventing rejection.
Yeah, we do know a lot
enhancing.
about that. That's true.
Yeah.
So what was done there is you have these they dampen your immune system so that even though there's a pig cell in your body, you dampen
the immune system.
Your antibodies are not
you just tell your body, you tell your immune system to ignore those cells. Like we want them, even though they're foreign.
Or shut it down. Turn it down in its sensitivity.
So now we're going and doing the opposite, but in a very micro-targeted set of tissues, which are tumors.
Hey, attack this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is what you want.
Yeah. It's like, okay, immune system over here.
Yeah. Get rid of this, please. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
By the way, this research was done in our new enemy, China, our old enemy.
They are not our enemy. Don't even say that. Neurolinguistic programming. They are old friends.
Frenemy, then. How about that?
You know, China has been on this earth longer than we have. They'll be here when we're still growing. They'll be here when we get to Mars.
I'll give up now.
No, don't give up.
Jesus.
Just realize that we need the entire planet to be a friendly neighborhood. So see people that way. Put out those vibes. Resist the aggressive narrative that is being fed to us in a big psyop that is relentless.
I'll try to stay non-dual in my contemplations.
Gracias.
You're welcome. In this case, 23 patients were treated. They had untreatable cancers: liver, ovarian, cervical, lung, and they were administered weekly intravenous and what they call intraperitoneal infusions for 8 to 12 weeks. And they experienced a range of stunning results. from partial remission to clinically viable cure.
Oh, there you go,
Halted
people.
tumor growth.
So ask your cancer doc to
90%
give you
success
the
rate.
pig tumor treatment.
Yeah. The clinical trials are entering phases 2 and 3. This is the later stages that aim to evaluate its safety profile. So it looks
All right,
like we're on the
breaking
threshold.
news.
This could defeat cancer, but cancer seems to have its own intelligence and seems to outwit us as we figure it out. It's interesting that way.
Well,
But
Pat
this looks
Flanagan
like,
used to say all cancer is cellular suffocation. Your cell can't breathe anymore. That's what's cancer.
Well, this was born from an idea to direct a powerful response towards an unbeatable enemy.
Cancer.
The traditional method is to attenuate your immune system.
Turn it down. Yeah, and that works for reducing rejection, but it's not using the rejection response as a treatment for cancer.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it's a whole another mirror thing, really. You know, it's
Yeah.
really playing with identity and mirror.
Right. You're telling your immune system that them cells that you thought were me, well, turns out they're not. See, they look like pork.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Get rid of the pork.
I hate pork inside me anyway. except
Doge. This
Yeah.
is Doge for your immune system. Here's the pork. Get rid of it.
OpenAI is building a social network. They may be
Oh, okay.
Competing with
Sam
X.
Altman wants to be Elon after all, huh?
Yeah,
He needs
well,
his own X.
Yeah, rivalry with Zuckerberg
Okay.
and
We can't have Grok not having another social network to play with.
So how is he going to do that? Is he going to have super friendly bots that just completely captivate you with their charm?
I don't know. Well, I mean, OpenAI is just going to ask you to join their social network. It's like, do you mind if every time you ask us a question now, we just put it out as a social profile post and let people know it's you, and then we'll start keeping a profile on you, and you know.
Well, no, look, the way in which they could do it, in my estimation, is that they could collect lots of personal information if they send you money. So you belong to their network and they send you money for belonging to it.
That would be a switch.
Yeah,
I mean,
wouldn't
you have
it?
to send other social networks money to belong to them.
I know, no, just to reverse it. But if they are making that much money off of us, they should be able to pay us something.
What a concept. Is that what this article is about?
No, that's just my
your
thought
own
about it.
bright idea. Huh?
If I wanted to.
Well,
you
we
know,
know Sam Altman is
yeah.
definitely pro thinking about new economic models.
Yeah.
So
But,
I
you know,
like
if you
I like
embrace
your
the
concept.
Peter Diamandis abundance model
Oh, yeah.
of economics, then there's more at the door. There's
Well,
always more.
This is reminiscent of the conversation that we watched recently where Chris Anderson, the founder of TED Talks, was talking to Sam Altman about this very idea about how to split up the pie of the resources that are being used by AI to create a business model.
What aspect of it are you reflecting on?
The fact that Chris Anderson was projecting that the AIs could be smart enough to share the wealth. His particular proposal was that any post or any AI question that asks about a specific person would then generate some revenue for that person.
They would be able to figure out how it could maximize who you are for giving you money.
Mm-hmm.
Give
But Sam Altman basically
Yeah.
said, well, currently you're not allowed to ask ChatGPT about any specific people. It will not answer your questions. And so we can't revenue share that way. That's kind of how he handled it.
Well, I'm thinking that an intelligent system would know what you're capable of and know who to send your social information to that people would appreciate it, and also maybe even be willing to belong to your club and pay you for your set.
Yeah.
So it would market you. In other words, the AIs would market you and sell you and then make money for you, take a cut and give you some money yourself.
So you want to have an AI service that basically knows you have a belly button. And since you have a belly button, it assumes that it needs to put money in your bank account.
If it
And
wants to keep you around,
the
yeah.
way that it wants to put money in your bank account is totally up to the AI to figure out what's the best way to support you.
Yeah, it'll give you a choice.
as the owner of that belly
I think you
button.
should be given choices.
Uh-huh.
I mean, do you want to be a talker, or do you want to be a writer, or do you want to be a painter?
Well, what if the AI just decides that you get to be one of the people who profits by shorting the stock market against some enemy?
Well, if you're good at it. If you're good at those skills, they'll invite
I
you
mean,
to
a new
certain
economic
clubs.
model. What if we just share the wealth, and every time somebody makes money by voting against the success of a company, then the company that is being shorted basically gets to share the wealth of all the money that's made by the people that are betting against it. You know, you could really take this in some interesting directions.
Oh, yeah. It'll develop a whole complex ecosystem in no time. Absolutely. But don't you think it's a good idea, though, that they should...
Who gets the rewards?
Yeah.
Who gets the
We should be included in the
prize?
loop. Why leave people out of it? It's their social data. They should get some money for it.
Uh-huh.
You know?
If you're in the profile...
See, Bobby agrees with me, right?
You want a fraction of a Bitcoin, huh?
We have to have UBI eventually. So
You might as well have some merit to it.
Yeah. But the thing about X and XAI is that the brilliance is that when you ask Grok something, it knows faster than all the news services what is going on in the world and can reply instantaneously based on what it hears from X. So that's why it's important to have a social network that people are reporting, the masses are reporting instantaneously, and that having that connection to a social service system, like this,
All right.
allows it to respond very, very quickly.
Yeah. Here's some skills here. Richard checks in saying he likes to watch, and so does Taylor. They like to watch TV a lot.
Yeah.
Could you get paid for that?
There you go. So treat everybody as if they are a member of a focus group, and the very fact that their eyeballs have been glued to a show means that they get a cut.
Well, they have a certain understanding that maybe goes with it, like lots of plot lines or certain kinds of characters and certain kinds of jokes and humor and social awareness of that.
So the fact
what
that
they're
watching is their skill.
Yeah, it is a skill.
I like
Being a
it.
good watcher is a good
really
skill.
turns advertising on its head. And so that way, anytime you have to watch an ad, that means that the people advertising have to pay you. I like it.
Yeah. The Brave
I hate
browser.
being interrupted by ads. I hate it.
You can get paid for going to certain websites.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these browsers that they pay you if you allow them to send you ads and also go to certain sites.
Really? Have you signed up for any of those websites that pay you to watch ads?
No, I don't have time for that.
It doesn't
What
pay
I
enough.
think happens is that first these websites tell you if you pay them a subscription, they won't send you ads. And then they change their mind. They've got your subscription and they send you ads anyway because they just can never get enough.
Yeah.
I know. I designed an AI that would watch for me, a proxy watcher.
There you go.
My proxy
Once they're
watcher.
paying you to watch, you'll pretend.
No, I'll put it into
Give it to your AI. AI, I want some income. Watch these shows.
And then when he becomes the first billionaire watcher,
Oh, there you go.
I'll expose the truth.
Billionaire watcher. I have so many instances of myself watching that I'm getting more ad money than anyone.
That's right. I watch every TV channel simultaneously on the planet.
Something
I
very
have something to
strange.
say about everything. If you want to know anything, just ask.
Just ask. Ask Albot.
Yeah, and the ads will pay me for your answer. For my answer, excuse me.
Okay.
You get this straight here.
There you go,
Yeah.
universe. You've been given your assignment by Albot.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the future is bright with their new open AI social network coming on. I like to see them involve some of these abundance principles and to include the people in the loop. You know, a lot's going on here, and especially if people are making a lot of money, why shouldn't
AI,
everybody?
share the
Yeah.
wealth.
Right.
Share the wealth, AI.
Social
what are you doing
app.
hogging it all? and
Real-time
just
data.
giving it to the people who already have too much. Stop that.
Yeah. They say that one idea behind OpenAI's social prototype is to have AI help people share better content.
Oh, okay. So now it's going to judge. Now we're talking about credit scores.
Well, apparently OpenAI is jealous of Grok and its integration with X.
Yeah, apparently. Sam Altman, he definitely wants to be Elon. He doesn't want to tell Elon what he's doing with that company that Elon helped him found.
And you know what they try to do when they're in these guys try to make their competitors AI say something stupid and get press over that.
Oh, hey, just to do a little throwback, we got a comment from Michael listening.
Okay.
Michael Moore, one of our favorite health wizards.
Master
Now. So he wanted us to know that Dr. Jason Williams has a new way of treating cancer that uses minimal intervention to reach your body where the hiding cancer cells are even after metastasized at the Williams Center Institute.
Well, we'll take a look
Thank
at
you,
it.
Michael.
We'll see if we can get a piece on that.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we are interested in breakthroughs.
All right,
in
last
all
5
fields.
minutes here. Come on. What else? Don't miss out, Al.
Well, one of
you
your
got some
favorite,
great headlines.
One of your favorites, Bobby, that NVIDIA is shifting AI supercomputer production to the U.S., $500 billion more in this country. Major supply chain shift for NVIDIA. That's happening.
Yeah, well, they have to compete with that Taiwanese company that's coming here, right?
Yeah, TSMC.
TSMC. Is NVIDIA producing their own chips or they're using TSMC?
Well, I think TSMC is coming over here as part of this. But
they're coming to Arizona, right?
Yeah,
TSMC.
Arizona. That's right. But just Monday, NVIDIA announced that it would begin producing AI supercomputers entirely in the United States for the first time.
Mm-hmm. NVIDIA,
First time. And they
Wow.
commissioned 1 million square feet of factory space and producing $500 billion worth of AI infrastructure over the next 4 years. The NVIDIA Blackwell chips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The next-gen processors.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can get a Blackwell chip in May, actually, for $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
From NVIDIA. Yeah.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
That's going to be freedom for doing whatever you want with the AIs. When you have chips like that at your disposal.
But it looks like they're collaborating with TSMC, Foxconn, which makes the iPhone, Wistron, Amkor, and SPIL. That's what we need because it looks like Taiwan.
They're going to get absorbed by China sooner or later.
Yeah. And so you have to build them offshore.
So the Arizona facility could be the future for NVIDIA AI.
The robots are going to produce these things just as cheap as they produce them in Taiwan.
That's right. That's the thing is that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, unless you have super cheap electricity. That's going to be the main overhead, the water and electricity.
Yeah.
So that gives us a bright future in the AI universe. That's great to know. And NVIDIA is leading the pack on that.
All right, that's our down to 1 minute, Al, to tell people about the future
Well,
now.
I thank you all for listening, folks. Really appreciate that. The seismic evidence that Mars might be home to life is interesting. And our own little sensors in our hands, they tell us when we're about to have an earthquake. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That's new this week for us to play with.
Download that MyShake.
MyShake, yeah. Check it out. Something that will pragmatically affect your reality. And
All right, and we got the girls back from space on the Shepherd mission.
yeah, Katy Perry said she's going to do a song about it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so something to look forward to there.
Right, and let's hope Palantir came up with something during their hackathon that makes us all safer.
Yeah, let's have the
Thanks
IRS
for
send us
listening,
money.
everybody. Have a great future now.
Yeah, appreciate it all.
Appreciate y'all out there. Billy, Michael, Richard, Norman, and
Taylor.
Bobby, Taylor, all you guys. Love you.
Yeah, we'll see you Thursday for dinner, Bobby.
Yeah. Love you all. See you there. Bye.
Okay.
And Taylor, hope you feel better. Sorry about your bike accident. Bummer.